Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome back to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio. In fact, in the off-season escape, our little beachside bar, by the one and only Mr. Johnny Larkin. How are you, Johnny?
Yeah, pretty good. Can't complain. Looking forward to the off season, even though it's only like 109 whatever days until the next season starts, something ridiculous like that. So, got to enjoy it while you can.
Good God, that is insane to think about.
Mm.
Yes, we are nestled here in this little backwater spot here in the off-season escape. We've had some good tunes on the jukebox, Johnny. I mean, people don't realize, the millions we've been raking in as independent
Yep.
podcasters really just lets us take the next three months off, doesn't it, John? We're pretty much going to
Does.
be essentially a decadent Roman orgy of delight for the next 3 months for us here in the off-season escape. I guess it's just the bounty of making so much moolah off podcasting.
Absolutely. It really does. It's a lucrative business opportunity that not many people know about just yet. And I feel like we're one of the very
It's
few
true.
that are getting in early and really starting to mine out this gold field of just ridiculous opportunity out there. You could podcast about nearly anything, but there's not many people that are clued in yet.
Do you think it'll catch on long term, the podcasting thing?
It's tough to tell. Like, it could be anything, but you gotta find out everything that everyone's interested in. I'm not really sure if we'll catch on that big.
Well, we're certainly giving it a crack
We
this
are.
evening for about the 300th plus time. So on the show tonight, this is really the cap off to our season, Johnny, our 2024. We are doing the AFLW season review for 2024. So we'll go through, give our thoughts on the season as a whole. I mean, you sort of get into a little bit of this sort of general stuff when we recap games and such, but this really is a chance for us to clear our notebooks, talk about, what expectations were met, what weren't, how we felt about different, outcomes and all that sort of thing, player development. And so we're going to do that in the public part of the show. So for about the next 35 minutes, and then we are going to skip over to Patreon and we're going to deliver the 2024 AFLW Hoopies Awards. We have the best team player, the what was the other one? The most improved player, and then our most valuable player as voted by the 5 members of the Hoops crew, myself, Johnny, Sambo, Ben, and Paul. So yes, that's what we'll talk about. Sambo may join us. I know there's a lot of things to do here at the off-season escape. Sam headed off. Who knows what to do, John? He had a number of things with him. He had some floaties. He had a fishing line, a little,
6-pack of
a
beer.
CD-ROM player, a 6-pack. Yeah. So
Yep.
who knows? He's off. He may stumble in here to the off-season escape tonight. He may not. But anyway, let's move into the episode. And before we do, Johnny, we need to say big Hoops Crew Media Network thank you to our beautiful media network sponsors, Cyril Cook Florist, who have jumped on in across the AFLW season and for the 2025 campaign as well. You can find them at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au. Remember, Cook is spelt with an E. You can phone them up on 035 222 2244, or if you want to make use of a 20% off in-store discount, go on over and visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Tell them that the Hoops Crew sent you, and they will knock 20% off your next in-store purchase. So good thing to keep in mind. As we've said, heading into Christmas party, work breakup, season, let's make sure you make use of that 20% discount from our glorious media network sponsors, Cyril Cook Florist. The time has come to deliver the 2024 AFLW season review. And very simply, I'm going to start off. We'll go through the games, chat about them, how they unfolded. At the end, we'll talk about the whole thing in bulk, and maybe give a bit of a grade of where we felt the season went. It all started off, Johnny, the Cats hosting Melbourne, a team they knocked out of the finals last season. A 40-42 point loss. The Cats started this game really well. They faded, unfortunately, and Melbourne came right back into it. Jackie Parry pulled things back late, but Geelong unable to find the goal that would have put them in front. Jackie Parry's goal, in fairness, was extremely late, but Geelong started off their campaign with a 2-point loss to the D's. After that, they went and travelled to Arden Street Oval to take on North Melbourne, a team that the Cats had never beaten in their AFLW history. They couldn't beat them again, but they also didn't lose. The Cats charged back late to tie this contest. It was a draw. Geelong had their chances to win the game at various points, but so did North. A draw probably in the end felt fair. How did you feel after those first two games, Johnny? We knew that they were going to be tough. I think we were going in thinking, well, geez, if we could get one, if we'd split these and go 1-1, we'd be all right. But what were your sort of feelings and vibe check after those initial 2 weeks of the season?
I think still pretty chill, pretty confident where we were at. Knowing that, we just lost to Melbourne, who are a premiership contender, and North Melbourne, who are extremely talented and up there again this year in the finals mix. So, going after these two games, you go, oh, it's not the ideal start, but at least we've got a draw in there and we can launch into the season from this point on. So I think we're all still feeling pretty good, pretty confident that there was a win around the corner and that would launch us into the rest of the season. And I think we're all feeling pretty happy until next week.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We sort of went in thinking, being able to take points off a team like North that we'd never taken points off before was a pretty decent effort. The following week, off to play Carlton, we lost to them 29-5 in a pretty abysmal result. Followed it up the next week with a thrashing of the Gold Coast Suns at 96-27. Johnny, I felt like the Suns win was a good one in round 4, but really there were alarm bells for me after starting the season 0-1-2 or 0-2-1. Got the good win against the Suns, thought maybe things will get back on track, but there followed, Johnny, a bit of a disastrous pair of results. A loss to the Hawks, 79-61 at home at Kardinia Park. Of course, we lost Amy McDonald to a hamstring injury during that game. And then on the Tuesday, this was when we were playing so many games close together, again at Kardinia Park. And again, Geelong started hot in this match, only to have the other team run over the top of them, Johnny. So, we went from that first 2 weeks going, all right, there's some positive signs, to losing 3 of our next 4. And had you lost hope at this point in time after the Freo lost and after we'd lost Amy McDonald that we could reclaim, a finals berth this season? Or did you still have hope here? What had you identified what you felt was going wrong for the Cats by this point?
Still had hope. Still have hope that we can make the grand final, even though we're not playing. There's still an opportunity. I was still feeling pretty hopeful that we could make the finals. I think we did talk about it a lot. It was going to be tough, but it was going to be mathematical chance that we could make it. It wasn't going to be easy, but it was there. So as long all season, I was saying, as long as there's a chance, there's always a bit of hope that we can make it. And it was just kicking inside 50 and control of the game just wasn't there for the entire season. Like, yeah, the inside 50s were just a bit too long, too high, a bit too easy to read. And when we did kick it different angles and directly inside 50, it looked really dangerous. But it was just the inside 50 efficiency, and then just letting teams run over the top of us in patches of games was the one that really hurt us the most. Just not being able to get on top. We got on top of games early, but we just could never sustain that level of play, and the oppositions were able to run us down more times than not.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. It was something we talked about a lot on the podcast at the time. That certain numbers looked all right, but the way we were able to capitalize when we were, when we're trying to go, when we've got control of the game, Geelong were just unable to put the foot on the throat, sort of thing. And then when whether that was just not able to create scoring opportunities or whether, not taking the scoring opportunities that we did take, it just felt like, we were letting games slip away or letting the door open for the opposition to sneak back through. And we discussed it during the season, of course, that the league is at a point now where you can't afford to miss your chances because anyone on their day can beat you. The Carlton game was a great example of that. Geelong actually had their moments early in that game and then just Carlton slammed the door shut. So Geelong at that point, really reeling after the back-to-back home defeats. Season on the line. They went up to Sydney, produced a stirring 44-41 win over the Swans up at Henson Park in Sydney. They followed that up, unfortunately, with a 46-39 loss to the Tigers that, at that point really did sort of slam the door shut, although they went in with a mathematical chance if results went their way in the end. But Johnny, that Sydney win was a good one, to sort of reflect on, I think, because it was backs to the wall. It was against a
Yep.
team that was also pushing for finals. The Cats, again, had their inaccuracy issues. They kicked 5 goals, 14 to Sydney's 6 goals, 5. But they put things on the board early. They went up 3-2-20 to 2 behinds at quarter time. The Swans charged back into it in the second quarter. The Cats, the next 2 goals of the game via the boot of Darcy Maloney and Aisling Maloney, the 2 Malonies. Sydney kicked the last 3 of the game, but the Cats managed to hold on to win 5-14-44 to 6-5-41. That was, in the midst of a frustrating season, a pretty good win, I thought, all things considered, to be able to go up to Sydney and get that victory.
Yeah, that was one of those must-win games. The Cats just had to go up there and win it. There was no real ifs or buts about it. It's just get up there, get a good win, move on to the next week. So yeah, it was very pleasing to see them be able to not only pull off the win, but also hold on to the lead when the opposition was coming out as hard and with some ferocity. So yeah, it was pleasant to see, and we were hoping that it would continue on for the remainder of the season, because I think by that point it was like, oh, there's actually a bit more of a glimmer of hope. There's a real good chance that if opposition player teams had really bad weeks, we could jump them and get ahead of them and possibly give ourselves another finals berth. So it was pretty exciting times.
It was. Unfortunately, we had another must-win game. This is the narrow path that the Cats left themselves, really.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, they couldn't win that must-win game the following week at the Swinburne Centre against Richmond. It wasn't for a lack of trying. The Cats, they did, start this game pretty well. 1 goal, 3-9 to 2 behinds at quarter time. They had a flurry of scoring opportunities early in the second quarter. It was behinds to Nina Morrison, one rushed, and one to Gabby Featherston. So the Cats at that point were up 1-6-12 to 3 behinds. Of course, then the Tigers walked back through that door that had been left ajar. Goals to Amelia Yesia and Mon Conti put them in front. The Cats, to their credit, they fought back 2 goals. Aisling Maloney and Jackie Parry in the third term were answered by Yesia kicking her second. The Cats led 3-8-26 to 3-6-24 at the 3-quarter time break, but it did feel that, Richmond had a lot of the flow of play. They missed their chances, though, early in that fourth quarter. Katie Brennan, Mon Conti, and one rushed behind, put the Tigers in front by a whisker. The Cats seized the lead by kicking a goal via the boot of Jackie Parry. Eilish Sheeran responded for the Tigers. Kate Darby put the Cats up again after 15 minutes played of the final term, but they couldn't hold on. The Tigers got 2 goals inside that last 5 minutes. Amelia Yesia and Katie Brennan kicking goals for the Tigers to run out 6-10-46 to 5-9-39 winners. That was obviously a disappointing one, Johnny, but let's try not to dwell too much on that one. It was, a little bit in how the whole season went. So instead, let's focus on how they responded the following week, because they welcomed Brisbane, one of the premiership favourites, to Cardinia Park, and they did the business, Johnny. I'm going to come to you at the end of this, season recap and ask you what your, win of the season was. And I imagine it might be this one. The Cats won 7-5, 47 to 5-7, 37. They kicked the first, or 5 of the first 6 goals of the game. It was 3-1-19 to 1-1-7 at quarter time. Goals to Aisling Maloney, Shelley Scott, and Jackie Parry. The second quarter, they kicked 2 goals to 1. Shelley Scott with her second, Michaela Bowen with her first to lead 5-1-31 to 2-4-16. They extended it again. They got a goal to Nina Morrison, to 1 goal to Charlotte Mullins for Brisbane to take a 6-4-40 to 3-5-23 lead in at the final change of ends. It was the Cats who got the first goal of the final term to Aisling Maloney. The Lions, they charged hard. They kicked the last 2 of the game to Orla O'Dwyer and Evie Long, but Geelong held on to win 7-5, 4-5, 7-37, their first ever victory over the Brisbane Lions, Johnny. And in a season where a lot didn't go our way, this certainly felt like something that you could hang your hat on in terms of, a proof of concept that the type of footy Geelong wanted to play was very much good enough, but due to a combo of injury and form, it just didn't happen. Would you agree with that, that this was, the benchmark of Geelong's season in terms of best wins?
Yeah, it would definitely be right up there as sorry. One of the best wins that we've had. It was fantastic and a breakout game for Anna Rose Kennedy. And again, it was one of those games that just gave you that hope. It was like, yes, this team, as we suspected all year, was really good. A really well-drilled, well-organised team that's got oodles of talent that just have to find a way to gel and get it working together. And they got it working as a team this game and pulled off a absolutely stunning win. Gives us that little bit of hope that yes, we're going to make the finals. Really good win, and have a couple of good games coming up that we have a really good opportunities at winning in. It was one of those games that gave you that little bit more hope, that little bit more of if we can play like that for the next couple of games, we're giving ourselves the best chance to win and giving ourselves the best chance of getting into the finals. So it was, in terms of wins, it was pretty massive and pretty exciting to see them play that way against such a good team.
Yeah, and their ability to control the game for like
Mm,
huge stretches of that first half. I know the Lions got back into it in the second half, and particularly the late goals obviously made it look a lot closer. But I think this was a more comfortable victory than the scoreboard probably suggests. It was a great day out for Nina Morrison, 24 touches and a goal to go with 5 tackles and a couple of clearances. Georgie Prasparkas really probably back to her best there, 20 disposals, 10 tackles, 10 clearances. Ashley Maloney, couple of goals from 13 disposals. But you mentioned her name before, Anna Rose Kennedy, absolute breakout game, 18 disposals, 17 of them by foot, 4 marks, and I believe went at quite a high rate in terms of meters gained and disposal efficiency.
mm,
Yeah, in fact, 83.3% disposal efficiency. So it was a breakout game for the Irish woman, Anna Rose Kennedy. And yeah, I think it's probably, we don't even probably need to have the discussion for me at the end of the episode. That is the game of the season for me for Geelong.
mm.
That's the one that, I sort of thought was the high point in terms of the opposition we played, how we played them. Um, as you said, it gave Geelong a glimmer if they could walk the tightrope and get results going their way elsewhere. They had to go over to Mineral Resources Park, the most romantic palace, one of our favourite
Oh,
grounds,
yes.
John. So many good memories from Mineral Resources Park. The Cats won 56-23, a 33-point win over the Eagles. That, of course, left the equation at Geelong needing multiple teams to lose. But before all of that, they had to take care of their business against a team they had never taken points off, the Adelaide Crows. And this is how that contest unfolded. It was. I mean, in some ways, Johnny, I feel like this game, like so many we've talked about, encapsulated Geelong's season. Massively strong start.
Mm,
The Cats jump out to a 4-1 25 to 1-5 11 halftime lead. It was goals to Georgie Prasparkas, Shelley Scott, Kate Sermon, and Jackie Parry. So Ashling Maloney held quiet in this game, but they find other avenues to goal. They're up 25 to 11 at the half. They would score 3 more behinds for the game. The Crows kicking 3 goals, 3 to Geelong's 3 behinds in the second half. The Crows running
mm.
out 4-8, 32 to 4-4, 28 winners. The Cats, the final 3 scores of the game, a rush behind, and a behind to Nina Morrison. Falling short against the Crows, Johnny, it's certainly not a crime. It certainly happened to a lot of very good teams, but it was the final nail in Geelong's finals coffin. It was, I don't know if this one's fresh in your mind. It sort of is to me that it was
Yeah.
just one of those evenings where they did an exceptional job covering Aisling Maloney, and the Cats, they just couldn't hold it together. Like in the end, they had that not only an opportunity, but they'd built themselves a platform that they just couldn't capitalize on.
Yeah, it was just one of those games that we came up against Adelaide. We had to win to give ourselves any hope of making finals, and they sort of had to win to secure top 4. And unfortunately, the Crows came out the better side on the night. They just went out there. They had a clear plan on the way they were going to control the game, how they're going to shut down their major players, how they're going to move the ball as well, how they're going to attack. They had it very well organized, very well disciplined, and they came out and basically just blew us out of the water from not from the start, but from just sort of
Towards the
wore
end of
us
that
down.
second quarter, it felt like to me,
Yeah,
like they really assumed control of the game.
yeah. It was just one of those games where the Cats were moving the ball really fast, really well, efficiently, and just getting some good opportunities in front of goal. We got took our opportunities early on, but it never felt like we were getting on top. They always just looked so calm, so relaxed, like they knew what to do next. They knew what was coming, and at the end of the game, it just looked like we would run out of energy, run out of go, and Adelaide just got going and took the game away from us. Really, from that, as you said, second and a half, they just we only scored 3 more points for the entire game. So yeah, it was just it really summed up our year. I said on the recap podcast, it just summed up how our year went from start to finish. Like some really good, clean, electric, fantastic moments, and then some real moments of just bad football where they couldn't do anything. The Cats just couldn't do anything right, and yeah, it sort of capped off what our year was. Just a bit of a not much year, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is how it ended up from a ladder perspective for the Cats. They were, let's face it, it was, and we're gonna talk about it in a slightly different way in a minute, Johnny. But what I'm talking about here is the within the context of what we came into the season expecting and thinking might be possible, which was top four, and if things go well, a lot more. Geelong
Mhm.
come out, they finish 10th. They go 4 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw. They scored more points, I believe, than anyone else in the comp except for the top 4 teams. No one else scored more points than that. Unfortunately, their backline, I believe, conceded more points than just about anyone above them anyway.
Mm.
No one above the Cats conceded more points than we did. We conceded 437 points and scored 479. Could never get a strong run of form going. We end up 8 points shy of the top 8. So, yeah, coming in, our our preseason expectation, based on the squad that was assembled, what had been achieved last year, the assumption that you might, be able to, do all right injury wise, and even if we did get hurt, that we felt pretty decent about the depth. That top four was the aim, and more if possible. To finish 10th was very underwhelming. Spin it now just a bit differently in the last few minutes here of the review, and that is within the context of what happened in terms of the injuries, in terms, and particularly the injuries. I think um, because let's face it, the Cats, even when, well, I was going to say even when we were healthy, but even then, we were compromised even early in the season, Johnny, in terms of the ruck situation, in terms of Chloe Shear being out, in terms of Georgie Prasparkas managing her way through a preseason injury and then an early season injury. Injuries, not having the key personnel all together at the right time was probably a bit of um, a pattern in our season. With all that in mind, do you think there's things that when you look back, you'll go, well, I think that they can be massively proud of, this or that. I think we can take this away. And what are those things to you? What are the things that you can look at this season and go, well, that was great. This was awesome. This is something we can learn from. And what do you take into 2025 in terms of feeling positive about what can be achieved?
A fair bit. I think the whole season is been a pretty good learning curve. The one thing that was very pleasing to see was they never really gave up on the season until it was basically done and dusted. But you could tell they were still feeling the same, that there was that opportunity to make finals, that they were going to give themselves every opportunity to give them that. So that was one good pleasing thing. Learning opportunities. I think just knowing how to play the game and control the game a bit more, a bit better, and I think they'll go away from this season going, yeah, we played some really good football, but there was also too many times when we had control of this game and we let it slip. I think that's going to be a major curve for the next year. To go, when we're in control, how do we maintain control, and not for the entire game, but just do what Adelaide did against us in that last round. Let the opposition have a bit of, open run, a bit of scoring, but never don't let yourselves get sucked into playing the way they play. Always revert back to the way you want to play yourself and let them run themselves ragged, like the Crows made us run ourselves ragged. So that's another good learning opportunity for the entire team. And just that's about it really. Just look forward to 2025. I think you can a few games you can just go, yeah, that let's just put that in the bin, move away from there. Look at all these other really good games we played. I think overall, going into next year, I think there's a lot they can look back on and go, yeah, there's some really. I think the pros sort of outweigh the cons just a little bit, but the cons are pretty still pretty hefty themselves. So yeah, I think overall a really disappointing year. I think they'll all agree it was really disappointing, but also a really good year of growth and opportunity and learning what players are capable of. And I think the one massive positive is Ashleen Maloney, what she was able to do this year in a second year, which was just enormous. And knowing that Chloe Shear hopefully can play a whole season next year, Amy McDonald can play a whole season next year. Then seeing the improvement of Nina Morrison and Georgia Prasparkas when she was fully fit, I think there's a lot more to be optimistic about next year. I think we were pretty optimistic this year, and it just sort of never went our way. Injuries got in the way, poor form got in the way. Just just things, just stumbling blocks throughout the season just got in our way too often. So I think next year could be a really exciting year, and I think they can really look into it and go, "This is what we did really well," which was we know how good we are. When we play well, not many teams can beat us, but if we let the opposition get control, then that's a big issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say like a big learning takeaway from me from the season is, can Geelong, it's about learning consistency. They made this huge leap forward. Everything was building under Dan Lowther for the first, 3 seasons that he was in charge, or 2 seasons. Where they made the finals. They first sort of transformed themselves into a, better defensively team. Then they managed to make finals. Then they made finals, made a prelim, came within a kick of making a grand final. This was a step back year in terms of the results on the field, but maybe that was to be expected after making advancements every year, since he's been in charge. It's been improvement, improvement, improvement. So it's pretty natural to have a plateau, even a step back. I think the big things that I'd hope to see next year is more of a killer instinct to put games away when they're there to be put away. And some of that is down to execution in front of goal. A lot of it is to do with execution in terms of continuing to use the ball well inside 50. I think there were times where we really were controlling possession in the game, but then, burning our opportunities going inside 50. I think if Geelong are able to be a little bit more controlled with how they'd put the ball inside 50, then maybe they're generating more scoring shots. More scoring shots lead to opportunities to pin the opposition down in their defensive 50. I think that was something we probably didn't see enough of in 2024 that we saw lots of in 2023. Geelong's ability to lock the ball inside their forward 50. Probably a few too many games where they bounced straight back out and were able to counterattack on us. And also too many times where the opposite was happening, that we were being stuck in our back 50. So those are things I'd like to see improved. But I think we will see improvement. I think there's a lot of players who are um, laser focused on winning a flag for this Geelong Cats AFLW side. I think there's some really good standard drivers in there. We know that the list won't be the same. We've already seen some players moved on, and we thank them for their contribution,
Mm,
obviously, to the hoops. But the reality probably is that the list does need strengthening. It's probably been
yeah.
shown that some players that we thought maybe would be able to be strength in depth, maybe haven't progressed the way we thought they would. So I think it's like you said, I think 2025, there's lots to look forward to because I think there'll be some moves made on that side. And I think if you look at the whole body of work under Dan Lowther, it's improvement, improvement, improvement. They improved every year the first 3 years he was in charge. They took a step back this year, but there were a lot of mitigating factors in terms of injury, etc. I don't think there's any reason to think that this is going to be the trend. I think they'll bounce back next year, and I'll be going in next year with finals expectations. That's where I sit right now. Is that, yeah, learn from this, build on this, take the positives that you got in terms of player development, in terms of some great performances, in spots like taking points off North for the first time, like taking points off Brisbane for the first time, like getting within 4 points of the Crows. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
you said it really well, Johnny. They never stopped fighting. They never, ever, ever stopped fighting in this season, even when finals looked dead and buried. They never packed it in, and I think they should be massively applauded for that because it is easy. I think when you know that the goals you're fighting for are probably gone, it could be
Yeah.
easy to drop off that bit. So, no, massive congrats to them. All right, that's it for the season review. We're going to go jump into our awards section now for our Patreon subscribers. So we hope you'll jump over and give that a shot. Yes, there will continue to be episodes across the off season. So jump on over, make sure you're ready and signed up for 2025. You can try it for free, 99. Sign up to the Hoops Crew for a free 7-day trial. See what it's all about. You can go back and have a look at what we did this year. Hundreds of posts there. VFL men's and women's coverage, Wednesday news wraps, extended versions of our pods. So we'd love for you to check it out. But as we say at the end of every episode, until next time, go Cats!
Go Cats!